Hello, Deanna here, and thanks so much for being here. Today's video is a book review, and the book I am reviewing is The Dinner List by Rebecca Serle. At least once in our lifetimes, I'm sure you've come across the question of if you could have anyone at a dinner party, 5 people, alive or dead, who would you invite? That is pretty much the embodiment of this book. This book is very much a who would you have at a dinner party if you could invite any 5 people. For Sabrina Nielsen, this very much comes true, and she finds herself in the center of a very unusual birthday party for her 30th birthday, where she has some very unique guests. She has her best friend Jessica, which is pretty standard, but then she also has her old college professor, Professor Conrad, her absent father, Robert, Audrey Hepburn, and her ex-boyfriend, Tobias. In this most peculiar of dinner parties, Sabrina is given a chance to confront her past and try to overcome some of the things that have happened in her life. So for this book, what I found the biggest thing is you really have to set aside your disbelief and be able to accept some of the magical realism that kind of happens, because literally when I started this book, I was like, okay, is this an actual thing that's happening? Is this like a dream that she's having? Is she just like imagining this? Is she thinking about this? But it very much seems to be like, no, this is an actual dinner party that's happening, and she actually has these guests here, like Audrey Hepburn. How could you have that individual at your dinner party? But that's who she has at her dinner party. So you just kind of have to set that aside to really be able to enjoy and appreciate this book. So I found the writing style of this book very like modern-esque. We had essentially these magical dinner scenarios that were happening, these dinner scenes that was like a clock at the start of every chapter to kind of let you know what time of the night it was for this dinner party. And it was in between scenes of Sabrina's actual life and playing out on what actually happened with some of what she's talking about with the dinner guests. So that was kind of interesting to have some of those jump cuts. It could be a little sometimes trying to, okay, where are we and what's going on? But it was pretty interesting, pretty unique way to have that as well, to kind of go back and forth, to have her be able to hash it out with those dinner guests and kind of show us those scenes as they happened. I think the most central part of this book is really a bit of a love story, because we're really following this love story and relationship between Sabrina and her ex Tobias, and why did they separate and what was their love story like throughout this book. So that is a big part of this book, is the centered around Sabrina and Tobias. I very much found myself while reading this book kind of thinking of myself too. I mean, when you get that age-old question of who would you want, what 5 people would you invite to your dinner party, it makes you stop and think, like, who would you want at your dinner party? And it kind of made me reflect back a bit to see who would I want at my dinner party. So for me, if I was to have been asked this, you know, as a teenager, I would have said, like, right away, barely any hesitation, Eminem and Justin Timberlake. Like, definitely would have loved to have them front and center at my party. And while cool, yeah, sure, be cool to break bread with them, they're not really my top choice anymore. I'm not a young 16-year-old anymore. So now my choices would be a bit more of reflecting on the actual connections maybe that I've made in my life, or where even my interests lay more now in life. So in saying that, my current guest list would be probably one of my oldest and best friends who doesn't live in this country anymore, so I don't get to see her, haven't seen her in a long time, so she would be one of my top choices. And ironically, her name is also Jess, so that would be funny. but I would love to have Jess for dinner, and then not actually have her, but invite Jess for dinner. And then I would also love for her mom to be there, because unfortunately we lost her way too long ago, and too young in my opinion. So I would love to be able to have her mom at the table with us. Getting just even more sentimental as well, we lost a very dear loved one about a year or so ago, just over a year. So I would also love to have that individual, which was my husband's stepmother, and I'd love to have her at my dinner party as well. And then I'd probably love, since especially I'm so into reading again, and I'm writing my own book and just enjoying books, so I'd probably want one of my current favorite authors to kind of have a chance to maybe talk with them, get some tips, pick their brain a bit. Right now, currently, that would be kind of a toss-up between Alexa Dunn and Victoria Schwab, but that's kind of where I'm leaning for that. And then for my final dinner guest, because I need 5 people, just gonna keep it all a bunch of lovely ladies, a bunch of amazing women, probably someone like Jennifer Aniston or someone, because I still love her. Still would love to meet her, so let's have her come on down and we can break some bread with her. So that would be my list of 5 dinner guests. Who would you want at your dinner party? Go on and let me know below. I'd love to hear, like, if you could have any 5 guests, alive or dead, who would you have at your dinner party? So needless to say, bringing this back to the book, this book had me in tears by the end of it. It was very just touching, some of the scenes and just her reflection on kind of what happened. I was not expecting where some of this went in this book. So there was a couple moments when I was pretty sad reading this book, but I found it an enjoyable book. I really had a good time reading this book. It was pretty easy to read, kind of felt a little beach ready, but just slightly heavier because of that undertone of like, what about missed opportunities or regrets and things like that, and people maybe that we would want to have one more chance to say something to. So that was very much woven throughout this book. So it was a very touching book in that way, and something that I did appreciate and enjoy that Rebecca wrote that. And Rebecca did a good job at showing that life doesn't always go the way that we expect it to or want it to. And sometimes we have to find a way to make our peace with that and be okay with that and be able to move on in love and as much happiness as we can find. So that was very beautifully done in this book as well. I really thought this book had a really cool concept too, like being able to have that unique experience of having that dinner party that would be very unbelievable to have. So I really enjoyed this book and the journey it took us on. I thought it was very well done, executed in an enjoyable way. I enjoyed the conversations that Sabrina had, and I just enjoyed seeing her come to terms with things, and I think it's worth picking up and reading. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars because I did think it was a very enjoyable read. So that's gonna be it for me. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, I have a blog post below. You might even get sick of me saying talking about my blog at this point, but if you've never seen one of my videos, I do usually write out a blog post about my book reviews as well, and I'm gonna post the link below. Go ahead and check it out if you're interested. I appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate it. Love to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and all that fun stuff. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Take care of yourselves. Thank you again for being here, and you will see me next time. Bye!